Nothing that we create today is an original creation. No idea is an original thought. It's just an iteration or a version of somebody else's work. And why I say this is because we oftentimes spend too much time trying to create something new and unique, thinking that's what people want, when really all they wanted was like the aqua version of your blue sweater, not an entire new line. Hey, it's Renee. Welcome to the Into the Wild Show, the podcast for women who want to build incredible mental strength to level up their business and lifestyle. I'm Renee Warren, the founder of We Wild Women, author, speaker, award-winning entrepreneur, and your host. Together, we will make you unapologetic about shining your light, growing your business, and turning you into a wildly confident and successful leader. This is for you, the visionary, the go-getter, the entrepreneur, and for those that need a real kick in the butt to get going and to dream bigger. Each week, I bring in leading experts and entrepreneurs to help you take leaps in the right direction, because I know the best advice comes from someone who has successfully done it before. So, are you ready to level up? Welcome to Into the Wild. Hey, you wild women. Renee here, coming back at you with my first recording since returning home. We actually got back late last night. If you've listened to the previous episode, I highlight how we had to evacuate from our house because of the wildfires burning out in Kelowna, BC. We're safe, we're good, we're back home. Although it's pretty smoky at the time of this recording, things are finally kind of getting back to normal for us. It's been a whirlwind of a summer with vacations and me dislocating my collarbone and evacuating, all the things. However, I am constantly reminded at how gracious and beautiful my community is. One of which is the incredible Shelagh Cummins. She has a podcast called the Road to 7 podcast, which is all about women entrepreneurs who are rewriting the rules for their business, for leadership, success, money, and how they're impacting the world. And she invited me to be a guest on her show, of which we've already recorded the episode. When she found out about us being evacuated and she found out about what was happening in Kelowna, she offered, it was so beautiful, she so graciously offered to help me out. She's like, I don't know what I can do. Can I co-host shows for you? Can I record shows for you? And I looked at my schedule and I said, oh my gosh, I actually do need a couple episodes because I was already playing catch up and I was behind. And I said, listen, can I just use the episode that I recorded as a guest on your show to use it for my podcast? And she said, absolutely. So this is why I love community. This is why I love growing a network, supporting a network, because when you need help, people will show up. They will rise up and they will help. And Shelagh is a beautiful example of what it means to create a community and nurture that community by giving back, by offering support in times of crisis. And I am without guilt taking advantage of this because it was such a beautiful way that she offered. And I know the content is what my listeners need as well. So in this episode, we talk about how I found my flow again after leaving my last agency and then starting up a PR company again, and how I'm putting myself first today. So all these things and what it means to find your flow again. If you quit a job, if you stopped working in your business, if you have no motivation to keep going, I talk about some of the stories of my struggles in worrying about what people think, about what my next step is, all the judgment, and really the shame that's wrapped up in that, the feeling of trying to explain what it is that I'm doing, but also like the identity. You think that the identity that is part of what it is that you do, whether you're a mother, an entrepreneur, whatever your profession is there's an identity in that. And oftentimes we fear moving away from that identity in favor of maintaining something that we've built, that we've taken so much time and resources to build up. And so Shelagh asked me such beautiful questions about kind of my journey through this and my road to becoming this new version of me. And so this episode is also being published on her podcast, the Road to 7 podcast. I will link to that below. But if you're listening to this, Shelagh, thank you so much for your support And listeners, I hope you enjoy this episode with Shelagh on her Road to 7 podcast.
I met my guest today back at a camp that we both attended for entrepreneurs. And to say it was cold is probably not the best way of describing it, because it was effing cold. It was freezing, and we were huddled together and we just started chatting. And you know, when you talk to someone and there's just this like magic and you just want to keep talking, that's exactly what it was like to talk with my guest today, Renee Warren, which is exactly why I'm bringing her back to share her journey and her story on the Road to 7 podcast. So first off, Renee, I'm glad that you're warm now. And thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. When you describe how we met, all I can think about was the coldest night of my life.
Yeah, in a cabin with inch-long holes in the floor, and things running through it with 4 legs. But we made it, Renee.
No heat, no windows, just screens. And while the time of year, it's really interesting, especially in Ontario, because it was, mid-September?
That's right.
You can have a September day that's 30 degrees out. We just happened to have the weekend where it got to, I think, -7 that night. And most people were ill-prepared, me being one of them. Because I was one of the few that really flew in, but most people like drove up from some parts of Ontario. I was not prepared for this.
Yeah. But we made it. We survived. And I loved it, actually, once I got in my car on the way home. Like, I was so physically uncomfortable, but I thought it was a terrific experience. So just to get us started here, Renee, I know that you haven't always been, and I'm going to read this because I suspect this is one of the best Instagram profile descriptions that I've ever heard. But I know that you haven't always been the holy shit, this works expert who creates world-class PR strategies. Took me 12 years to figure it out. You get it in a day. Oh my gosh. Okay. Best Instagram profile ever. But have you always worked in PR? How is it that you got to where you are today?
So I started an agency back in 2012 when I was 8 months pregnant with my first son. In that same year of starting the agency, welcomed my second son. And this is all important because it's eventually going to come back full circle to the whole like burning out and coming back to it. But I really started in the space as a quote, social media influencer back when Twitter was called Twitter and not X. Mm. And I was working at a company that helped train small business owners. And I was managing the blog. And part of it was really understanding different marketing ways to like grow the business and grow our clients' business. And I was really diving deep on Twitter. And we're like, how can we leverage Twitter as a business tool? Secret fun fact is I actually met my husband on Twitter. So it converts. So anyways, long and short of it is I eventually ended up on the grounds in San Francisco working with some startups. And part of it was understanding how Facebook ads, Google ads were working in that time, creating like beautiful infographics back in the day when you actually had to hire a design agency to create the infographic because Canva didn't exist. And you're spending thousands of dollars on them. And it eventually spiraled into me partnering with a woman named Heather. She was actually doing public relations for startups, and I was doing content marketing and social. And we came together one day and we started an agency. And we didn't know what we were doing. Most people don't. We very quickly secured clients from all over the world, from South Africa to San Diego. And we're just locking in huge contracts because it was the first time in this space that people were actually marrying PR, traditional PR, content marketing, and social as it's like a flywheel, how it all works together. Mm-hmm. And we did that for, about 7 years. But coming back to the part of having those 2 babies in the same year as starting my business, I eventually burnt out. And my husband was busy raising money for his new startup and traveling and babies and life. And I couldn't do it anymore. And so Heather left the business and we were going through due diligence to have it sell. Like we're selling it to an agency actually in Ontario. It was about to happen. I just couldn't handle the 2 to 3 year earnout that was tied to that acquisition. I figured for what we're going to be earning in that in the sale, I could probably sell more in the business revenue wise and pay myself more. Little did I know at the time that I was done.
Right.
So closed the doors of the business and then got into coaching and started a little thing.
Hang on a second, time out. Did you end up selling it?
No.
It just sort of evaporated. You walked away?
Exactly. It could have happened, but it didn't because of, there was other little things in there too. One of it was obviously the company was acquiring the team and our process and everything and our contracts. But it's a funny, fickle thing going through an acquisition when it's like they're acquiring your team, but your team doesn't know yet.
Yes.
And so now all of a sudden it's like, I don't want to make this decision for them to go and work for somebody else. It didn't feel right to me.
Right.
So, maybe part of it is we threw grenades into the idea of actually having the company acquired. Anyway, shut it down, got into coaching, did that for about 3 years. And even when I was doing that, people were still like, hey, Renee, we want to hire you to do some PR. And I was always still interested in doing this. But here's an interesting fact. Of the 7 years I was running that PR agency, I never pitched the media ever. I knew how to grow the agency, run the company, and I hired the team to do the work. Mm-hmm. And so when companies, and these were people and startups in this fund that I'm invested in, were hiring me to do their PR, I realized I don't know essentially how to pitch. Like I know how to pitch, but I've never actually done it. So there was a big learning curve. But the beauty in this is that I created different processes. I saw a hole in the industry that needed to be filled, and I figured it out. The 12 years it took me to figure it out, I created a one-day authority booster intensive that now allows people that don't have gigantic PR budgets to get the world-class PR strategy, the same tools and tactics that we use to pitch our clients that were paying us like $20,000, $25,000 a month. So the advantage was, and I know you want to ask me this question about burnout, how do I create a business I'm going to grow to love and not hate?
Yes.
And it was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, probably way too many tears.
Yeah.
And a lot of chocolate.
Chocolate does make the world better.
Yeah, it does.
So let's go. So I just actually would like to backtrack to the closing of the company. You knew what did it feel like? Tell me about the burnout.
Oh, I felt so ashamed. Yeah, I felt so embarrassed because you spend all these years growing this business that it ends up becoming your identity, right? And we tell our story that we can't change what we do because we spent so much time building this reputation, building this identity. To switch directions would be like a waste of time and money. And then people would be like, oh, this person isn't committed to this type of work because she changes her mind all the time. But I didn't. I just needed a break. And it got to a point where I was overthinking what other people thought that actually no one was thinking about it. Yeah. Not once did anyone say something like insulting or at all to me in this process. It was like the story that I was telling myself. So the moment I recognized that, I was like, well, then maybe I'll just jump back into this because I'm really interested in getting back into PR in a different capacity, in a different position. And that's when I did.
Yeah. And, that's amazing to me. I was on a coaching call last week and I'm working with a woman who we use different words. She is burnt out. The way that we sort of talked about it was she's kind of outgrown her company. She's a little bit bored. It's not lighting her up again. It's not making the money that she wants. When she looks at her business model, for her to make the revenue that she's striving for, it just doesn't sustain it. She's talking to the wrong niche. She just has outgrown it. And much like you, and when I've closed down businesses in the past as well, it's sort of looking at it and saying, okay, but what is the learning in here? What part of my journey is this going to play for my next iteration? How did you make the jump to coaching? Because it is a big jump and a big leap of faith.
Yeah. Well, after I closed my business down, there were people that came to me knowing the success that I had in running the agency. Right. They're like, hey, can I get your advice? I said, sure. And I realized at one point, I need to start charging for this because I'm the one that suffered all these years going through the ringer. I need to recoup something from this.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything about coaching. I didn't have a structure, a format. All I know is that I had been there, I had done that, I had the war wounds, and I had the know-how to explain to somebody how to avoid what I just went through.
Right.
And then I did that for 3 years. And first year was great, huge learning curve. Second year was interesting. And then last year, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And the moment I made that decision, I just started disconnecting completely.
Yeah.
But then I came back to figure something out in the PR world that is a totally different method, totally different way of doing things.
Yeah. Making a big shift like that and taking that leap of faith is something that one of the things that I see preventing people from making that is, what am I going to do financially? How am I going to sustain myself? Where's my first client going to come from? What's the program going to look like? What's the program name? Did you have supports in place for you to be able to make that shift? Or did you just jump and then build the plane as it was flying?
All of that.
Yeah.
I'm still jumping today. I'm still building my parachute. It happens every day.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. And part of that community, well, you know all too well, is Dovetail. So Alexis Dean that created this community.
But just terrific community.
For me, it was like finding the 1 or 2 women that are my anchors. I don't have to apologize for anything. And I don't have to filter what I'm going to say or be worried that if I ask a question in a stupid way, they're going to be judgmental. And believe me, these women are hard to find, but when you find them, they are your everything. And my girl is Diana. I actually met her, a long time ago, but really got to meet her in person through the Dovetail community years ago. And I knew with her, it's like, I don't have to sugarcoat anything. She will never be insulted by anything I say unless I'm actually purposefully insulting her. But I needed her to be like, nope, that's busy work. Don't do that, Renee. Great idea, but no. Here's what you're trying to do. Or talk to this person or do that thing in a way that she wants to see me successful. Mm-hmm. And obviously the other person is my husband. So I have the luxury of living with a man who is one of the world's top business coaches. And so he's helped me a lot throughout this journey as well. I will say I don't want to say take advantage of that enough, but when there are moments and I'm like in a bind, I'm like, I don't know how to get out of this. I will stop him. Like he's going to the bathroom and be like, yo, Dan, question for you. Yeah. There's this thing that's happening. Do you have 2 minutes? And he'll sketch it out for me. But there's no way any successful entrepreneur can grow or get to that next level without having those people. And here's the thing. The more you grow, the more those people have to either grow with you or you have to change the type of people that you're getting advice from. Yes. And that's okay. And it's not like you're leaving those people in the dust. That's not it at all. It's like, hopefully you're encouraging them to grow as well. But there's a point where, you're a $1 million a year business and the person you're getting advice from is a $5 million a year business. That's actually a perfect match because they're not too far ahead. They kind of just went through what you went through. But then there's a moment when you're the $10 million a year business and they're still 5. Well, they can't really help you that much anymore because they're still there. Yeah. And so you got to level up. And if you find the right people, they're growing with you too. Doesn't have to be in the same industry. My friend Diana, she's in like real estate development, land development. It's nothing, I don't know anything about that. I live in a house that is on a piece of land. That's all I know. So finding those people definitely help because it can be somebody that you scream with, cry with, yell with. Yeah. And they just help you come back to like, what's reality? The reality is that we all go through this, everything you can think of in business, everybody's gone through it at some point. Right. Yeah. To know that you're in a safe spot, to know that these people are going to make you feel uncomfortable, because that's the whole point of growth is to be uncomfortable, but you're safe. Yeah. And to really encourage you to just keep going. Those days when you're like, I'm done, throwing in the towel, this is way too much. You have to look back and reflect on everything that you've built to date. These people, your little cheerleaders, are going to cheerlead you through those moments. And it's not fun. It stinks. It's ugly. It's cold. It's dark. But when you get through that on the other side, you're like, meh, that wasn't so bad. Yeah. That was not so bad. Yeah. That's amazing. As the coaching grew and evolved, you've developed the We Wild Women brand. Tell us a little bit about how that evolution came to be. Yeah. So I was actually sitting in a pub in London, England. And it's like almost like these downloads from God, universe, whatever you want to call it. coming through on a piece of paper and I was just writing this out. And it's actually the sign behind me, for those that can't see it, it says We Wild Women. And it is about, the name comes from we being a collective, because I know, like I just said, you can't get to the next level in anything in life, parenting, community member, business, without there being other people. Wild means, hey, let's go against the grain. In order for us to kind of stir up the patriarchy and get ahead, we need to be a little bit different. Some might call us insane or too loud. That's awesome. Let's be more insane and loud and bold and rebellious and audacious. And women is just how we identify.
Yeah, that's terrific.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things we geeked out over at the camp, and yeah, another shout out to Alexis Dean for just a terrific community at Dovetail. One of is planners.
Yeah.
I have a planner, and now I'm not nearly as eloquent in naming anything as you are. It is a productivity planner, and its name is Productive because that's what it does. Tell us a little bit about your planner and how it came to be.
Okay, so I created it for me because I needed something that had a different layout. But I want to tell you something about this planner. The best gift it has taught me is really, truly understanding busy work versus important work.
Tell us more.
That I love the planner. I love what I learned. It's beautiful. I'm still selling them. It was a distraction from a really important goal. It was an easy distraction because it looked like I was producing. I was creating something. The reality is there's, all due respect to those that create planners, there are a dime a dozen. They're everywhere. And there's some brilliant ones out there. I love mine. Mine's great. It's gorgeous. It's pretty. It's got everything I need. But I was not the person that should have been creating this because it is such a far cry from where my business has evolved. It may have made sense as a coach, but I was going through the production as my business was shifting too. There should have been a point where I just stopped doing it completely. But the planner, it is what it is. I've learned what it means to create a product. And man, it is tough.
It is. I've had 2 iterations of my planner, and I did a Kickstarter for both. And shout out to people who do crowdfunding for their projects. I don't think I ever will touch. I don't think I can do it again. I don't think I have it in me. And I'm at the point where I'm like, well, it needs a facelift. I want to change some things. Is it worth it? And to your point, there are planners that are a dime a dozen. I created it because I needed it. And it's not really what my business is about.
Yeah. So you got to think, I love that you brought it up because I look at it every day. So like there's a shelf behind my camera, behind my computer. I get to see, it's a reminder of what I've created and actually, or iterations of it as well, that I put next to the book that I published, that I put next to some awards that I won because I'm like, wow, Renee, you did this. You created these things. It's also a reminder of what not to do. And so easy to get distracted by creating new programs, creating new offers and new products without actually really honing in and locking in one and making one really, really great. And so I want to give a shout out to Marie Forleo and Amy Porterfield and all those people that have been doing almost the same thing for year after year after year after year, because while they're probably bored of talking about it, they still know people need it.
Yeah.
And they didn't really stray away from it. I think they've introduced new offers and new programs, obviously. But Amy Porterfield is still known for Digital Course Academy.
Yep.
Marie Forleo is still known for B School.
Yeah.
She's not gone off and doing fashion design. Maybe she is. I don't know. But the point is they're known for those things. And the reason why is because they stayed the course for years, year over year over year. They're going to be the go-to people now forever. There's
one woman in my network who every single email that I receive, she has a different title and a different focus. And so we're talking like a decade's worth of shifting. And she hasn't stuck with one thing for long enough to let it stick. How long now have you been in the coaching space and helping women with their
Well, I'm no longer in the coaching space.
So tell us what you're doing now.
So I'm back in PR. But let me tell you the story of how this happened.
Yeah.
I went through, I don't know if it's an age thing. I don't know what it is. A point in my life. I turned 40 almost 2 years ago now. And I have this, are we allowed to swear on here? I don't know.
Oh, hell yes.
Okay.
Give her shit, lady.
I have this thing called the Give No Fucks 40s. Mm-hmm. And part of it was like trying to rejoice in getting older. I think it's something to celebrate, regardless of the wrinkles and the gray hair. But I was like, 40s, like I've always looked forward to this age because it's like before things start to degrade naturally in our body, we have energy. We're hopefully in a position where we have abundance around us in terms of our parents are still around, our family's still around, we have money, we have resources, we have means. And I was really looking forward to this time. Little did I know, my 30-year-old self had higher expectations of what it would mean to be 40 years old in terms of my career and all this stuff. I live a beautiful life. I will never discount that. And I got to where I am because of all those years of work and internal work. So I went through this like really weird transition period in closing down my agency to doing what I'm doing now in coaching, trying to figure it out. And I realized that figuring out for me meant doing a bunch of different things. I'm not saying a million different offers, but like I started taking drum lessons. I ramped up my time at CrossFit. I started doing like powerlifting classes, just going outside of what I know to learn something new. And in that, every time I did something different or read a different type of book or talked to a different type of person, it's like it built new neural pathways in my brain. And I was more intrigued and curious about what was going on in the world. So I did The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron back in, I think, August of last year, which forces you to write 3 pages of daily pages. And there's like, I mean, such a beautiful exercise. She has you go through, everyone's an artist. She says, our gift from God is to show that artistry through something. And I'm not talking about painting. Like she says, an artist is creating something, create a business, you create a family, whatever. There's art everywhere in our lives and we are creators. And it's our gift from God to be able to do that. And there's nothing that can stop us. So a shame on you for not actually taking advantage of your gift. So going through this process of daily pages is so boring. Some mornings I'm like, what do I write about? I love my coffee. It's so awesome. Oh my God, maybe tomorrow I should try decaf. Oh, almond milk. I got to switch to almond milk. Like, why do I think these things? But let me tell you, these thoughts are in our head always until we get it out on paper. And then every single page I wrote in that book, I got lighter and lighter and I started to see things differently. I'm like, oh my God, I do this. I say this. I think this way. And then that was done. A bunch of other stuff happened. Then on December 8th, so only this past year, December 8th, I went to my second time going to Date with Destiny, Tony Robbins event down in Florida. First time I went was in 2015. A couple months after I got married, I had no clue what we were doing. I walk into this room and I'm like, who are these lunatics jumping around in super air-conditioned room till 2:00 in the morning, listening to some big dude on the stage talk about how fucked up their life is? Who are these people? For like 6 days. So I kind of held myself back. But this time when I went in December, I was like, I know why I'm here. I know why these people are here. I love Tony. He is magical. And being in that room, like every second, I was like breathing in new light, just surrounding myself with these people. And finally, I was like, I need to get back into PR. It's almost like God was like, get back into PR. And I'm like, yes, I'm going to do it. Wrote it down in my book and I filled out every square inch of the workbook you get when you go to these events. I never do that. And come back home and I'm like, damn, I'm doing PR. What's interesting, on the second last day of Tony Robbins, after I had decided I'm doing it again, at this point, I was helping my husband with his book launch too, and I was getting some big wins. That day when I made that decision and we got home at like 2 a.m., I checked my email and sure enough, there were 2 people that had emailed me asking to hire me to do their PR. And I'm like, I'm like, is Tony friends with God? Like, did he give him a little message, nudge, a text message about this? Okay, so I believe in the universe and the signs this was meant to be. But I was like, but what are the things about the industry that I don't like to do? So I wrote all the things I love about PR and all the things I hate about PR. And I'm like, can I do a business without having to do this side of things? Sure enough, if there's a will, there's a way. And so long story short, on a sales call in early February, a friend of ours launching a book and he wanted to hire me to help him go on a podcast roadshow and whatnot. And I said, sure. I sent him the proposal and he misunderstood the price. So at the time, it was like $3,000 a month for 6 months. And he thought it was $3,000 for the entirety of the 6 months. And I was like, I do not live in a tent. Nope.
Yeah.
I do need to afford my lifestyle.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh my gosh, Renee, I'm so sorry. Of course it would be $3,000. Why would I think it would be anything less? He's like, but I really want to work with you. And timing wise, I need help. What can we do? And I'm like, well, you have a VA, right? He's like, yeah. I go, is she capable of like pitching you? He goes, yeah, I think so. I go, give me a day to map out the strategy, to write the pitches, to kind of put together a training manual for your VA. I'll jump on a call and I'll train her and I'll walk her through. We'll build out your media list and how to do all this stuff. And you guys can just go and execute. And he goes, sounds great. How much is it? I'm like, well, it's $3,000. I don't know. Yeah. Sure. And then I was like, wait a second. I can sell this again and again and again. And then I get the people in place to actually make it happen. Weeks later, I get a phone call from this woman named Callan. She's like, hey, Renee, you don't know me, but there's 3 of us, Callan, Stephanie, and Kinsey. We would love to fly you down to Florida to do a 2-day intensive for us to train us how to implement that world-class PR strategy. Sure. So I get on a plane and I go down. And then it's like that snowball effect. It's like the first gentleman, Mark, was like the starting of that snowball where you have a little bit of snow in both hands and you're packing it. Then those other 3 women, it was like I started rolling the snowball and it got bigger. And then more people started coming and I kept rolling the snowball, not down a hill yet. It was just kind of on a flat surface. And then more clients kept coming in. And before I knew it, that snowball was rolling down a hill. And to this day, I can't keep up. Can't keep up. But how I got there was identifying what I love to do, without giving any shits about what other people thought about, oh, here's Renee going from PR to coaching, now back to PR. Like, can she make up her mind about anything? I'm just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
To identifying what I love about the industry, what people need, and then creating the service to deliver it to the world. Okay, you wild thing, you can throw out that scruffy media pitch now. No more poring over bland pitches, wasting countless hours trying to piece your story together, wondering where to send it and who will even care. You know that landing media coverage is the #1 way to claim your seat at the table, and you're savvy enough to know it's time to bring in an expert. That's why we've created a system to take the guessing game of PR off your plate. One day, one investment, all the value. Get your PR strategy in hand sooner with our VIP days. It's strategy over breakfast and PR ready by dinner. Picture this: a world-class PR strategy created for your business by an award-winning publicist with 12 plus years of industry experience, and not just an upgraded version of a dull media kit, but a custom plan that's strategically crafted to capture the attention of journalists and influencers. No fill-in-the-blank, bare-bone type templates. Just a detailed roadmap to move your brand forward without the agency price. And this isn't a course. Here's exactly what you'll walk away with. All of this custom media kit, pitch angles for podcasts, print, and TV, curated podcast list of over 50 vetted shows, 1 press release, confidence to pitch at your own pace, custom training videos to show you the way, plus a month of follow-up support with me. If you want in to this amazing VIP day, simply go to wewildwomen.com/VIP day to either fill in the application if you're ready to do it or schedule a call if you want more. That's wewildwomen.com/VIP day.
Gosh, I wish more people would trust. And I think that's sort of the biggest takeaway that I'm having as I'm listening to you talk is creating space for those downloads. You talked about it, the words from God, the words from Tony, wherever they're coming from. If we don't have this space and grace to let ourselves listen, we're not going to see what that next step is. And the second piece is trusting that it's okay. And that even if we put something out and it doesn't work, we're still going to be fine. We just need to refine what it is. And, from your mouth to our listeners' ears, like that is just terrific. Listen, I've got 2 more. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me share a message I sent with my husband today. It's actually from the 5-Minute Journal I wrote in. It's a quote from Alfred North Whitehead. He says, fundamental progress has to do with the reinterpretation of basic ideas. It's not about complicating things or reinventing anything. It's about taking some basic idea, tweaking it, making it more suitable for today's day and age, or maybe adding something to it. Because nothing that we create today is an original creation. No idea is an original thought. It's just an iteration or a version of somebody else's work. And why I say this is because we oftentimes spend too much time trying to create something new and unique, thinking that's what people want, when really all they wanted was like the aqua version of your blue sweater, not an entire new line of clothes. And we fail to really pay attention to what our customers need, the market needs, but also we think everything has to be so perfect and extravagant. And it's not.
And I'm in my coaching program. One of the biggest takeaways I've had is the whole concept of simplify. Just be known for one thing, have one program and stick with it. And when it's working, you double down and do it more. And if you don't want to do it anymore, you start bringing people in to help deliver it. But to your point about Marie Forleo and Amy Porterfield, B-School, it's been running. I think I was part of the first iteration, maybe the second. Listen, I was online before Facebook and the whole content marketing strategy. But anywho.
I was there during MySpace days.
Yeah.
Great.
Yep. Anyway, I think that's such great. And also that permission to have growth and evolution. We as people grow and evolve, and it's A-okay for our businesses to do the same.
Yeah, and it's A-okay to do that in all facets of our life. In your marriage, in your friendships, in parenting. Okay. We call it in this house new information. So it's actually a perfect way of, I don't want to say getting out of a fight, but it's like, hey, you changed your mind about something. It's like, why did you change your mind about this? New information, which means that, like for my husband, I'd be like, hey, you bought the blue car, but you wanted the orange car. Why'd you get the blue car? Well, new information was that blah, blah, blah. And you states the reason why. It's, okay. That makes sense. Right. But also when you can change your mind with conviction and confidence, new information means that you are curious. And I want to be friends with people that are curious because they're going to teach me something. And those are the best people to teach you something about the world, but mostly about yourself.
That's terrific. That's amazing. Listen, I've got 2 questions and then I'm going to let you go. First question, what do you know now that you wished you knew when you started your entrepreneurial journey?
Oh, consistency is your currency. You have to keep going. You are going to get so many shit sandwiches thrown at you. They get bigger the more you have and the more you make. If you can find a way to deal with the shit sandwiches, it's really about consistency.
How do you keep going?
Working out. Yeah.
You were a CrossFit champ. Didn't you win some big?
I did. I came 3rd at a competition.
Oh, you're amazing.
Yeah. Here's the thing is my perspective from being a mother and a woman and keeping going is putting yourself first. And I'm like, I know people are like, fuck Renee, I know it's not an original thought. I get it. We say it and we talk about it and we podcast about it and we blog about it. Christ, we write books about it. But who actually does that? And here's a perfect example. We travel a lot as a family. And every single time we travel, I help Dan pack his stuff, I help pack the boys' stuff. I pack all their suitcases, charge all their devices up, do all that stuff, get the house ready, get the dog ready, and then I take care of myself. I forget my chargers, I forget my swimsuits, I forget my underwear all the time because everyone else is taken care of. Only this last trip did I pack my bag first. And so I packed all of them. I got me ready. So in case like that taxi's coming right now, I'm ready. The boys, my 10-year-olds don't care what they wear. They will wear the same thing every single day for 3 weeks. They don't care. So putting you first is, okay, date nights with your husband, working. Please, let's all start working out more. And I'm not talking about a 60-minute workout. I'm like, go out and walk for 10 minutes between calls, please. Get a standing desk. Do something that is more movement that you normally do. The moment you start getting that blood flowing, it's like it opens up new chakras in the body.
Literally.
So getting through those tough times, it's about movement. It's about putting yourself first. I want to come back to this thing. I actually podcasted about it this past week. You know that book, that song, Going on a Bear Hunt? So pertinent. So in the book, song, I remember singing this as a kid, is they say, we're going on a bear hunt. We're going to find a big one. I'm not scared. What a beautiful day. A sound or something, a big, loud, swishy sound. And it's a bear. And so they're facing a field with tall grass. And they say, well, we can't go over it. We can't go under it. We can't go around it. We have to go through it. Everything, through the grass, through the water, through the mountains. And for me, the book, I think the metaphor is to help a healing journey. It's to help you heal. I really do believe it's about growth. And healing is growth. But everybody faces challenges, and it could be internal demons, it could be external influence. But think about that bear hunt. No matter what you're faced with, you can't avoid it. You have to go through it. And every single time going through it is actually the shortest distance to the goal. And we fail. We fail to think that. So sometimes you just got to face that trauma, that fear head on, and just put your head down and just run as fast as you can.
Go anyway. Yeah. And I think of all the things that I hear women saying, oh, I really want to, but I really would like to. However, I'm not quite ready to, Like, think about where our world would be if we all just said, I'm scared, I'm afraid, and I'm doing it anyway.
Or like even be like, I'm not scared. It's just, it's going to suck.
Yeah.
But it's also going to be more awesome than you can possibly imagine. And you know where the awesomeness comes in, and all of these things we do in our lives and our business and whatnot, is when you get that one comment of, Renee, something you said a year ago completely changed the direction of my life. And I want to say that you almost saved my life. That's it. There's one person you're influencing because of the stuff you're doing. Oh, you've changed the world because that person's life's better. Now their kids' lives are better. And now their kids' lives are going to be better.
Yeah, 100%. So what's next for you? Where should we be watching you? What's coming up for you? What's most exciting for you right now?
Oh my gosh. What is so exciting is there's so many things. So many things. My team is just gelling right now. I've reprocessized my processes. That's totally a new word.
Oh, totally a good one though.
Going into the dictionary and creating processes and systems in my organization. Here's what we end up doing is we end up avoiding that heavy work because it's a lot of work up front. But at the end of it, what comes out the other side is way less work.
Yeah.
So I finally did that. I didn't work with anybody in particular, but if you're going through this in your business, hire an operations specialist. Allison Caffrey is a great person for this. So that's one thing that is now allowing me to gain more capacity in my day. I'm looking forward to bringing on some pretty epic clients, actually starting this month. Some of the biggest clients I've ever signed in my life. And I don't even have a gigantic agency. It's just, I put myself out there. I said, I want to do this work with great people. And guess what? They came. They showed up. Yeah. Just watching my boys grow, supporting my husband, and just living the best damn life I can.
Isn't that beautiful? Listen, I know that the listeners are going to want to be tracking you down, following you, liking you, connecting with you, getting on your email list. Where should they find you?
They can go to Instagram. So it's Renee_Warren, or they can check out wewildwomen.com to see what I do. Some really great free downloads, some free pitch templates that I know people have used to work to land some big media coverage. Really cool freebies there. And then those two places are probably your best bet. And from there, you can find me on other platforms like TikTok and YouTube. But yeah, Instagram and wewildwomen.com.
Terrific. We will do that, just that. Renee, thank you. Thank you for sharing your journey. Thank you for all the truth bombs. Thank you for the hope that I think you've given to a lot of listeners. And just thanks for sharing and thanks for coming today.
Well, thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. I'll talk to you soon.
So there you have it. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Into the Wild. To make this girl happy and to help reach other women who are dreaming of starting their business, please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and everywhere you listen in. Also, if you want to find me in the wild, check me out on Instagram at Renee_Warren. That's RENEE_WARREN. And leaving you with one of my favorite tips of all time. The best advice you could ever receive is from someone who has successfully done it before you. Until next time, ladies, peace out.